Hello, if you're watching this, it probably means that you have got some tightness through your hips and groins in your pelvic floor region. So we're going to go through a quick mobility routine for those areas. Okay, so we're going to start off with some knee slides. You're going to set up with your feet flat against the wall, hips and knees at 90 degrees. From there, you're going to think about pushing your knees down together and pulling your hip back. Common mistake with this is we roll through our lower back, our lumbar spine. I want this to just be a pull back of the femur, the long bone up here. You're going to feel a stretch the outside of the hip. From there, you're going to push the knees together again and slide that hip forward. It is just a small movement, so don't worry too much about how far you're going. We're going to go for 10 reps on that. Nice and slow and controlled, concentrating on the knees, pushing down together, the feet being flat against the wall. And as I said, limit the rotation through the thoracic or through the lumbar spine. Should be feeling lots of movement in the hips and groins with this one. Good. And as you're pulling back, you'll see the tendency is that the knee will want to lift for you to roll, but if you keep the knees together and slide side to side, you get much more out of the movement. You're going to repeat that on the other side. Same setup, feet flat against the wall, knees on top of each other. Move my arms out of the way so you can see. Pushing the knees together. A forward and back movement is 1 rep. So there's 20 movements in total in the set. Good, nice and slow and controlled. From there, we're going to work into knee rolls with your back flat on the floor. You're going to need a foam roller or something similar in between your knees. 2 feet flat on the wall. Roller's going to pop into the space between your 2 knees. You're going to push the 2 knees together. You're going to push through the midfoot, slightly lift your hips off the floor, and from there you're going to drive your knee up on one side and pull your hip down on the other, and repeat on the opposite side. Again, it's not a massive movement, mainly because my hips are tight, but also because if we're getting too much movement, it'll mean that our lumbar spine is rotating. We're going to go for a total of 10 rolls on this. You're going to drive up 5 times on each side. You can repeat this for a number of sets if you want, but just for the purpose of the video, we'll just work through a small range. Good. Next part of the process, we're going into our hinge squat hinge. For this, I want you to pop your hands on your hips, soften the knees ever so slightly, let the chest drop towards the floor, keeping the hips high but letting them move back in space. From there, you're going to allow yourself to shift forward ever so slightly so your heels lift off the floor. That doesn't mean a calf raise, that just means allowing your center of gravity to fall forward. And in that position, then we're going to hold. We're going to take an inhale through the nose. On our exhale, we're going to drop down slowly and controlled into a deep squat position. The heels are going to come higher off the floor, the chest stays upright, and the back stays flat. The back shouldn't be curving or arching in any of these movements. It should be staying nice and flat. From there, on your next exhale, you're going to press through the middle of the foot to push yourself back up to the hinge position. There's 1 rep. Down we go again, nice and slowly. We don't want to come back all the way up tall. We want to keep the tension in the legs the whole time, pushing through the middle of the foot back to the hinge position. So the hips come up, the knees come back, and the chest comes back to the starting point. Dropping down again. Good. We're going to go for 5 reps in total on this. 3. Good. Using your breath is really important on this to expand the rib cage, get the pelvic floor moving. That'll allow you to get more into your glutes and into your groins when we're transitioning through these movements. Good. And back up once more. And from there, you're going to think about squeezing your glutes to come forward and up rather than just shooting your knees back. You're going to squeeze, come forward. You should feel like you're almost about to fall forward. Next up, we've got our hinge with breathing. So it's going to be a similar setup to your hinge squat hinge. Hands on hips, chest towards the floor. Shift forward ever so slightly so the heels slightly elevated from the floor. Long, slow inhale through the nose, keeping the spine nice and flat. And thinking about it being really long. Chest bone coming forward with your inhale. And relax, breath out. Inhale. You can go for 5, 6 breaths in this position, whatever feels comfortable for you. And similar to the hinge squat hinge, with this we're looking for the hips to come forward through a squeeze of the glutes rather than just lifting straight up with the back. Then drop the heels to the floor. Next up, we've got our rock back breathing. Elbows, forearms, and backs of hands on the floor. Knees just under the hips. In this position, you're going to think about breathing deep into the back, so pushing the rib cage up towards the ceiling. On your inhale, long and slow through the nose. On your exhale, then, you're going to rock the hips back towards your heels. Keeping the pressure through the arms and elbows the whole way through to pull the shoulder blades forward. Rock forward with your inhale. And rock back. Again, on this, you can go for anywhere from 6 to 10 breaths, whatever feels comfortable for you and whatever you feel like you're getting the benefit from. Next up, we've got our chop. So you'll need a wee disc, a ball. You can use a shoe, foam roller, anything to have in your hand for this. To start, we're going to stack our weight on the leg we're trying to work. So for me, my left, slight bend in the knee and bring my hip forward so it feels like my toes are being pushed into the floor. Then drop the toes on the other side. For this, we're wanting to maintain a high hip and then the knee in relatively same position. We don't want the knee to travel back past the heel. We want to stay stacked on the middle of the foot. You're going to start up tall. For the movement, you're going to rotate back behind the hip and spring forward. So that's slowed down. This is what it's going to look like. Spring forward. You're aiming for like 10 to 12 reps on this, on each side. Show you what that looks like from behind. So the hip's going to come back and out almost like a scoop, but it doesn't drop. So 10 to 12 reps each side on that one. Next, we're going to come into our groin rocks. You're going to take one leg out to the side, knee on the floor on this side. You're going to take your two hands down in front of that knee. You're going to inhale in this position. Exhale, rock back, heel, hip towards the heel. You'll be feeling lots of stretch and movement in around here. Inhale as we come forward. Exhale back. Again, the reps on this is very much dependent on how you feel. You can go 6, 8, 10 reps, more if you want, just as much as you feel like you're getting benefit from it. We're going to repeat that on the other side. Same principle. Inhale, exhale. If you're noticing that there's not enough stretch or you feel like you could get more, you can take the hands out to the side. Inhale at the top. Exhale as you bring your hip back towards your heel. Good. Next up, we've got our wall chop rotational slam. Okay, so for this, you're going to want a small ball. It can be a football, something soft that's going to respond from the wall back to your hands. Okay, so similar setup to the chops that we've just done. For me, I'm going to work this left side first of all. So same thing, stack that foot. Get loads of pressure through the midfoot, get the hip and knee forward, toes on the opposite side to the floor. From there, it's the same motion. You're coming back towards the hip with the ball and springing forward. This one's a little bit more dynamic and a little bit more load going through the hip. You're going to aim for 12 to 15 reps on this. Again, we don't want the hip to drop. We don't want the knee to shoot back. So you want to stay in a high, rigid position. The torso swings back towards the hip as the ball travels past the hip. And repeat that on the opposite side. And finally, we've got our lateral bound ball slam. So you're going to start, we'll use the line as a good marker here. You're going to start 1 foot on the line. You're going to take a step to the left and throw the ball off your left hip, similar to what you've just done with the ball slam. Okay? So you're going to step, plant, throw. Step, plant, throw. Looking to make that a little bit quicker as you get more comfortable with the movement. Sitting right back into the hip, opening the groins and the hips on this one. For this, set a timer for 30 to 40 seconds and repeat twice, over and back. Just going to give you another angle of what that looks like so you can see what's happening with the hips. You're going to step from the center across, sink into the hip, move across. Enjoy.